Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about the new season of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds.
Yes, we are talking up to season 2, episode 8. So not the entire season, it's not done yet, but we're doing a little mid-season check-in on how Strange New Worlds is doing.
Just a little touch-up, just a little vibe check.
Just like, hey, how you going? How's it going?
How you doing? How's the family? How are the worlds? Are they strange and new? Oh, they are.
Oh, shit. Are they, though? I'm not sure we've gone to many edges of space this season.
Oh, this season not. It's strange. Like, there's still strangeness.
Oh, shit. You know what? Some of them were strange.
Some of them are strange.
Yeah, some strange shit's happened.
Yeah,
you know what?
Withdrawn, Your Honor. They're not always new worlds, but they're at least strange. And they never guaranteed both. So it's...
Strange, new,
worlds? Question mark in a parentheses. So that's what we're talking about this week on the podcast. We're talking about Season 2, Episodes 1 to 8 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And we're talking about it because we've changed the schedule a little bit. We talked about Strange New Worlds last season. Mm-hmm. So we're like, of course, like, why not dip back in? But also, this is stepping into our schedule because we are not covering Secret Invasion, the latest MCU television show on Disney Plus. For those of you that might have seen, we posted it on social media. Normally, those are the type of shows we cover. Secret Invasion, we will not be covering because they have an AI created title sequence, and we will not be watching in our personal lives or covering on this podcast any show or film that uses AI sequences to completely replace human artists. We think it's poor business practices, it's in bad taste, it's problematic in many regards, and we just won't be doing it.
We won't be doing it. We support artists of all kinds on this podcast and in our daily lives. So that's visual artists, that's writers, that's actors. We support all the strikes that are currently ongoing and hope they all get fair trade contracts. And we want to see art created by human beings.
Yes. Yeah. So as simple as that.
That's the reason we didn't watch Secret Invasion.
We didn't watch Secret Invasion. We won't be covering it. And yeah, the first Marvel property we won't be watching at all. It'll be the first MCU thing that we've completely skipped.
Good work, Marvel.
Yep. So goodbye to that. That one went right in the toilet due to computers making aspects of it. So this week we're talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 1 to 8. Let's just get into the episode. Let's talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Parentheses S.
All right, we have seen more of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which we talked about last season. We're back with more of it. We've seen 8 of the 10 episodes of this season. Still a short season, I believe. But we've seen 8 episodes, and so far, Diana, did you like it?
I do like it. It's quite a high like. There's like one bad episode, a couple mediums, and then some bangers. So like overall, I think it equals out to a high like of I think as much as season 1, if not more. It's really just the vibes are still so good. Like I just love like all of these actors for the most part. I love that it's still just episodic and there's no continued story throughout the season. I just love being able to tune in for a casual episode of Star Trek. And I'm like, Anson Mount's going to be so casual and fun. They're going to find a strange or new or world, and we're all going to have a good time. And there's like a couple duds, but that's Star Trek, baby. There's always going to be a couple duds. You're going to throw some stuff at the wall. It's going to slip right off. It's not always going to stay on. So I'm having a pretty good time. It's not a flawless season by far, but I am excited every week to watch a new episode of Strange New Worlds. And I think, if anything, that deserves a high like for a show. So that's how I'm feeling about season 2. What about you, Andrew?
Yes, I'm also a high like. It borderlines, but doesn't quite cross over into love.
Some episodes are love.
Some episodes are love. It's there is like a little bit of a mixed bag here, but for the most part, it is a high like. I I think part of the only reason why it doesn't cross over into love is that like I'm with you. I like that it's episodic. It has the heart of old Trek, and we talked about this when we covered season 1, where it's like it has the heart and soul of old Trek, and it feels right and fun and episodic. But they are only 10-episode seasons, and I'm like, old Trek, yeah, there'd be like, this one's maybe kind of this one's not the best one, but it's a filler episode, and like a goofy thing happens. But if you only got 10 episodes, I'm like, I don't know if we should be hitting 2 filler episodes. Like, I feel like it should be, the percentage of hits should be higher, but I do agree that it's like classic Trek, where there's some hits, there's some misses, but you're along for the ride the whole time. But I don't know if with 10 episodes there should be that much miss. But when
I get what you're saying. The percentages aren't the same when you
yeah.
only have 10 episodes.
Yeah.
It should be all hits.
It should be all hits. But when it hits good, and like it's just a really fun time. The vibes are right. The characters are lovable. Everything's super playful. I really, really do like this show. This is my favorite. My favorite of the new Treks for sure.
Oh man, favorite of the new Treks.
Yeah.
What do you consider the new ones? Just like Discovery, Lower Decks?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
basically.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the 3
Yes.
newish. Oh, Picard.
And Picard?
Question mark? It's such a continuation of TNG.
Yeah, it's still a revisit. I'm still gonna put this in like the new class,
Okay.
I would put Picard in the new class, and I would still say that I like this more than Picard.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is my favorite of the new Treks. I almost think of like old Treks as like pre JJ movies and new Treks as
Ooh.
post JJ movies.
Okay, I'll take that. I think that's a good differentiation.
and differentiation. Those are the eras of Trek television.
So the BC, so BAJJ, AJJ,
Yeah.
before JJ and after
JJ.
JJ.
The BJJ after JJ.
I don't know
AJJ.
if those work as good.
Yeah, it's not
acronyms.
quite as fun.
They're
We
not great
can
acronyms.
skip that completely.
You know, you got to throw it at the wall and see if it sticks, much like a Star Trek episode.
You gotta try. You gotta try. So even though Picard's a redux, I'm still putting that in the AJJ time
And
frame.
I will also say, just as a negative off the top, and I'm sorry that we mentioned this about a lot of movies. I didn't want to mention it about a show. Why the episode's so goddamn long.
Oh yeah.
Unless your episode is like Emmy contention, like Last of Us special episode, it doesn't need to be over an hour.
I agree.
I'm sorry.
It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen a couple times.
couple of them
where it's
are
a
an
little,
hour.
It's a little bloated. You could cut a couple scenes easily.
Yeah. Some of them are like the crossover with Lower Decks is 42 minutes and it slaps.
And it's perfect. That's
It's
the
a perfect
timing of
episode.
an episode. And for a show that like feels like classic Trek so much, I'm like, you should get the timing and pacing down
That's
as
what's
well.
weird
where
about
like
it.
you shouldn't have kind of like the bloated, we didn't want to delete a couple unnecessary scenes of modern streaming television, while you have so much of the heart and soul of what made original Trek just kind of tight and snappy and fun and well paced.
Yeah, because I would even say I think the episodes that I find mediocre would probably be way better because they're mediocre because I can't get a vibe for what's happening because they haven't cut all these extra scenes out from a B or a C plot.
Yeah. Sometimes there are D plots, and I'm like, we don't need D plots here. Let's get this out of here.
Should never get to a D.
We don't need to be scraping down into the D plot.
That's why there's a gold, a silver, and a bronze.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no fourth place
There's
medal.
no fourth medal. There is no fourth
Don't
medal.
go to D.
So don't go to D plots. Yeah, I agree with that. It could definitely be a little bit shorter in terms of each individual episode. But I'm having fun. I'm having fun.
So much fun. Yeah, they really super smartly just like held on to everything that was great about season 1. Like they, no cast shakeups. They've added Carol Kane in a weird capacity as the new engineer.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm on board with that, but okay.
I'm on board with her. I just find it so weird that her introductory episode wasn't like a new character's introductory episode.
Yeah.
Like usually when a show is like, here's a new character, that episode is about that character.
Mm-hmm.
And none of her episodes have been about her. She's been around, but she's never had an episode.
And even in like 2 of the episodes, I'm like, you're the D plot
She's
we were
the
just
D-plot.
talking about. That's very deletable. And to like, here's the new character. Also, they're in the D plot. It's like, I don't know if we need. I don't know. You're not doing this right. You're not doing this right.
But she has an interesting perspective every now and then.
It's something a little bit different, and also to have like a very like a older / perhaps timeless character of like a Guinan type figure in Star Trek is very much a classic vibe that I can get on board with. I don't know if they've written her to be that role quite yet, but maybe they'll figure out kind of what to do with her.
Yeah, and I actually really like they've even dropped, like, in season 1 we liked that it was episodic, but kind of the season runner was Pike dealing with his like future. And this season there's like no season runner.
And
at all.
I'm super cool with that.
I'm super cool with it. Literally, the only season runner is like the will they, won't they with Spock and Chapel, which seems to have like resolved itself.
Yeah, yeah.
And everything else is just literally exists within the episode it's in.
And every now and then they're still playing with like the Pike future thing, but not as a season. Like the lower deck crossover episode when it's like, oh, future, yeah, I know about that.
But in a fun way.
But
where
in a
Pike's
fun
just
way.
like, I resolved that last season, actually, Mr. Boimler. Don't you worry about that.
You mean my previous arc? I'm familiar.
I'm past that.
Yeah. So that's a lot of fun. I will say that, like, to jump into a positive, a big positive, that Lower Decks crossover episode is the highlight of the season.
Absolutely the highlight of the season. After watching that episode, I had to go to bed early because I was so tired from laughing. Like, I was exhausted from laughing so hard, which was not a surprise, but like a nice treat because like we're kind of half and half on Lower Decks.
Yes.
I think as viewers, like, we like it fine, but it misses for us sometimes. But that crossover slapped in every single way. It was so fun. It was so punchy. It was so low stakes, but it was so like, there's just a little bit of a lesson here.
Yeah. A little bit of a lesson and just nice and fun. I think like that's kind of been our thing with Lower Decks, where like it'll hit and miss for us, where I think Lower Decks has phenomenal joke writing. Like the joke per minute is great, and the delivery of the jokes, it's really, really funny. And then there are a few points where it's just like, I don't know if you quite, and I know that like you're meant to be a comedy and a cartoon, but I'm like, it's actually kind of agitating me that you don't get what the theme of this story is.
Most of the time they miss the theme of their stories.
You miss it pretty heavily.
But not
but
in
the
a way
joke writing is so tight.
But they don't miss it in a way that's comedically missed.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they're walking away and they're like, we sure did solve it. And there's like a fire behind
everything
them.
Explodes.
Yeah. No, it's not like that.
But this has the joke writing of Lower Decks with the understanding of storytelling that Strange New Worlds has had. It's a perfect blend episode.
It's a perfect blend. It might be the only time in history where I'm like, I'm so glad this voice actor is also a live action actor. It might be like the only time that's allowable and cool and that I'm fully on board with it, because Jack Quaid is such a good voice actor for Boimler, but live action, he is such a good nervous nerd in a situation he's not qualified for, is a weird stereotype that he has fallen into as the character on The Boys and on Star Trek Lower Decks.
He has a typecast,
He is a typecast as nervous nerd in over his head. But he's so funny. He's so good. And like, you just felt like Boimler was real.
Yes, I will say as well, Tawny Newsome does a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Well.
I didn't have her IMDb open. I didn't know who played Mariner.
Phenomenal job of Mariner. Not only did they kind of like blend in really well with the real world cast of Strange New Worlds, they both brought a physicality and a mannerism as well of their character, where it was like Jack Quaid at one point when like Boimler is running does this insane all joints are at a 90-degree angle, like not quite Tom Cruise, but a cartoon character running type of vibe. And Tawny Newsome has just like this little bit of like hands behind her back kind of moving in and like sliding into frame like a cartoon character.
But like not like any cartoon, like their specific characters do. Like they watch their own show and they're like, what are the mannerisms they have drawn for the character I voice?
They have had to co-opt as a live performer what the animators have decided to give those characters. And they did a great job of it, of making it like distinct and recognizable, but not making it feel cartoony. Because I thought that was the other thing I thought that was brilliant about that episode, is that they mixed mediums between cartoon and live action, but that wasn't the premise. It was a time travel episode about like, no, these characters exist in the same world and they're traveling through time. It's not an episode about like, oh, it's a wobbly portal that makes you a cartoon world or makes a cartoon. It's just like, no, like they had one goof to be like things look a little weird or things look
Because we
really
had a
realistic.
we had a weird drink.
But it's not about changing mediums. It's about changing timelines. And I really adore and respect that.
Yeah, but changing mediums would have been a bit too much to draw attention to it because I've never felt like Lower Decks exists in a world where you're a cartoon. Much the same way, like, there was an animated cartoon about, the original series with the original Kirk and Spock. And I was never like, well, those are the cartoon Kirk and Spock. I'm like, this is Kirk and Spock if you drew them as a cartoon.
Yeah.
But it's canon. So, yeah, seeing them come and just be like, no, we're just regular people who are maybe a little bit more animated because we're young ensigns.
And I also
think it was very smart.
It's very smart, and I think it's one of those things that shows a lot of respect to the medium of animation, which a lot of the times live action television and film does not do. Where they're like, well, now it's different. Now we're not in your kids' toon world. Now we're in the real world. But I think it shows actually a lot of respect and adoration towards the animation as a medium to be like, yeah, we're all telling the same Star Trek story.
Yeah,
we're choosing different visual ways to tell it, but that's not what's important here. We're still telling Star Trek stories.
Oh, that's a nice way to look at it. Yeah, we're all Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all in this together. We're all exploring these strange new worlds.
So that was I think the highlight episode of the season.
That was absolutely the highlight episode of the season. There's no way around it. It was so funny. I like Mariner a lot more in live action, I will say.
I agree.
She's she's cuter. She pops more. She's more relatable in live action. I don't know what's going on with their animated version of her. But yeah, I have just never left. So hard though when Boimler made them turn around so he could do future science. I was on the floor.
So good. Just
So
him
he could-
underneath, like ripping out cables and
like
stuff.
that was another point where he's moving very cartoony. He's all trapped in the cables, and you can picture how this would look in the cartoon version of him. He'd be probably hanging from the ceiling or something. But you're just like, oh, he's just a little bit more animated than everyone, but he is a nervous guy. And it's so funny just seeing the entire crew of the Enterprise turned around so they won't break the timeline and see some future science.
Everyone
I laughed for so long.
It's so funny, and everyone in this cast is just so cute
They
all
are
of the time.
So cute. They're so good at being like a kind of like a cast that's like a family without being like, we're a family and we'll do anything for each other. They're all just kind of on board.
They're quietly family. They
Yeah.
don't have a bucket of Coronas or draw attention to it. They just are.
Yeah, they'll turn around if you need to do future space stuff or future science. They will teach you how to be a Vulcan if you've been turned into a human. Like, that was a group project.
Uh-huh.
They all worked together. So yeah, that was really, really great. Oh, just the one last thing about the crossover that I loved,
Sure.
which was the tiny theme that I really liked, which is like, if you project a prejudice onto someone, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy with the Orions being pirates.
Right.
I was like, what a lovely, quick little theme you've put in here that like changed the world very quickly.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you project whatever values you project onto someone is how they are perceived, and also changes their opportunities in the galaxy as well.
Yeah. Really, really great little throwaway lines there. The crossover episode was chef's kiss.
Very good. Very good. Talking about like the whole cast being cute, the amount of times that Anson Mount is just a S tier world class cutie, it's frankly like it's hard to list the ways in which he is wildly adorable all the time. His character's like obsession with cooking and getting food right is such a lovely little character detail and such a loving thing about him. Like, what like music is to Picard, cooking is to him, type of a thing. And I'm like, every captain needs that detail of like, what's your thing that like grounds you to humanity and like helps you connect with people. And I love that cooking is his thing, and he's so cute about it.
He is so cute about it. I mean, he's cute about everything. He's such a good captain, and you always feel like he is in charge, but you also feel like he's just a regular dude who like, he just wants to be a cool, chill captain who wants to be your friend, but not like in too much of a way. He's perfectly balanced.
Yeah.
He's a perfectly balanced man and captain. Yeah, the way that he will help you with your personal problems or your Starfleet problems, the way that he will cook for you, the way that he will just casually be like, do you have any more of that Vulcan appetizer? You got it, man.
Loved that.
Every facial expression in the engagement ceremony with Spock was memeable to an nth degree.
I loved that scene.
Absolutely everything. He's in the background. He has no lines. He's fully in the background, stealing the show.
Him working so hard on that Vulcan dish. And then like the dad, T'Pring's dad, loving it, and then the mom hating it, forcing the dad to kind of go back and pretend like he doesn't like it. And Pike's journey of like elation to disappointment. Another point when they start an argument and he's coming over with fresh appetizers and just does like the Abe Simpson hat
In
on
and
a
out.
hook gif of like turns right back and doesn't.
He nopes right out of there.
Holy
he knows his place.
shit, he is so funny and charming. And yes, that leading then to the end of the episode of the dad, like, you got any more of the? You got it, man. Him wordlessly connecting with a Vulcan dad dealing with some weird family shit. Like, I was like, I've seen these two dads at barbecues in real life. Like, it was the realest, most relatable people connecting over food in the background of a troublesome and problematic family get together.
Yeah. The dads don't want to be involved in whatever the aunts and the moms have cooking and the drama. They're like, I just want to eat a burger and talk about the game.
And it's just like, what is that?
And
Charcoal?
if the
Is that a
game
charcoal grill? And then
if
just
the
lock
game-
in.
And if the game is football or charades, whatever game it is, I want to talk about it.
Love it.
I mean, like, we're on Pike, but I will say my second favorite episode is Spock gets turned into a human.
Spock is also doing a phenomenal job.
Spock's doing a phenomenal job, but this episode was so great to me. Actually, for kind of the reasons you just said about the dad, what I thought was so interesting was they found a way to fully flesh out Spock and T'Pring with T'Pring's parents. Like, once you met her, like, human-hating mom and her really chill, likes humans dad, you're like, I understand T'Pring completely now, how this works, why she's into Spock, why she is fully supportive of him. You're more like your dad than your mom. You're rebelling against your mother by being with Spock, but I also think you genuinely love Spock and you're just like your dad and you're more accepting and willing to try new things. Like, the fact that they were able to create two new characters to fully flesh out this character who's hardly ever in the show.
And frankly, who I've always enjoyed being in the show. T'Pring is
love
phenomenal.
T'Pring. Her name's far down the cast list, Gia something. She is incredible.
A fantastic performance. Gia Sandhu, fantastic performance. Really owns this character. Like, funny, charming, knows how to play somehow without breaking the fourth wall, kind of like knows how to play against audiences' expectations of a Vulcan and play the comedy of that, even when it's not. Because, like, she's had some comedic episodes. They had the body swap one last season.
Oh my God, the body swap episode.
And then this one, obviously, an engagement party with your fiance who's actually a human pretending to be a Vulcan. It's comedic premises, but even in the dramatic scenes, she knows how to play off these comedic expectations of what a Vulcan is. And it's a really intelligent performance, and she really nails it and has created a character that just oozes likability.
She manages to be like this Vulcan emotionlessness, but also be so vulnerable and emotional with Spock in their conversations about like trust and acceptance and this betrayal she felt in this episode in particular. I mean, she is crushing it. And like, this will get to like, I think a negative of the season for at least me, and I think you, which is that Chapel's no T'Pring.
The Chapel romance is, I know that there are some fans who are into it. I don't understand why. It's nothing.
It's pretty much nothing. I'm going to give the Chapel Spock romance kind of I will think very fair to it, and I will say it's just not for Diana's, because I do recognize that a lot of people like it, and I don't think it's poorly written. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, and I think I kind of got it at first for a little while. I'm like, yeah, Chapel is like a wild, crazy woman who wants this nerdy guy who like, she can't have, but I will absolutely, and there was like kind of a chargedness between them. I will say since they got together, they've sucked.
Yeah.
They haven't had a nice moment since they hooked up.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say I actually don't get it. Like it's one of those, I don't think it's well written. I think it's only half well written. I understand why she likes him.
Well, Spock's a catch.
Spock's a catch, and also it's like that is something that she wants in her life. Where it's like you want that kind of like grounded nerdy guy, like this is a thing that you are attracted to and you like this. And I feel like a lot of the fandom that kind of ships these two is like, well, I'm Nurse Chapel and I would like Spock. And I'm like, okay, but what does Spock want? Because I actually don't understand why Spock is doing any of this. And any of the times where it's like, well, I would like, she connects me more to being human. I'm like, human isn't enough of a reason for you to break off an engagement and like mess up your life and have a romance with this woman. Just species is not enough of anything. I don't feel the spark. There's no written emotional connection. It is really just 100% written from Chapel's perspective to be like Chapel values Spock and Spock's around.
I get what you're saying. I think there was like some more charged stuff last season, but they have not had anything this season that I was like, ooh, the chemistry.
Yeah.
So like they really are relying on like last season when a couple things happened. But they've done themselves a disservice into Pring being so likable and lovable. And also everything that Spock seems to actually want, like you said though, like he wants acceptance from this Vulcan side. She has accepted him so fully with all of her heart, like no strings attached. She will fight her parents for him. She will do long distance. She absolutely loves him for who he is, despite being a full Vulcan woman. And like she makes all these sacrifices for him. And then he also makes these sacrifices for her, which makes me think he really wants to be with her. Like he goes to this whole engagement ceremony as a human. He lifts a burning pot. That must have really hurt his hands.
Yeah.
He's like really, really trying. And then he just lets her go and he doesn't fight for her. And I'm like, I don't think you like Chapel that much. And like, I want to be fair to like, because this pairing's popular, so there must be something I'm missing. But I'm like, T'Pring rules.
I really think the pairing is popular just because people like Spock, and they're like, but I see myself as Nurse Chapel,
and I want to
be with Spock. So why wouldn't he be with me, the person watching this show? So I think it's that level of proxy. But it's just, but I agree. It's also like written the opposite, where it is exactly like him and T'Pring are loving one another and having this connection, and it really feels incredible. And then at the end of the episode, it's like, well, Nurse Chapel's around and still likes Spock, so he has to be with her. And it's like, but why, when he's been working all episode towards an incredible relationship with T'Pring? And it also feels like it's fighting what the casting naturally became, which this happens sometimes in television, where it's like they cast certain characters and write with certain expectations, and then as a season progresses, it's like, no, actually, these people play out a different way and we need to rewrite that. And I think after last season, to be like, T'Pring fucking rules, they have wild chemistry on screen and a level of open communication that really feels like a healthy relationship that's trying to make it work and loves and cares for one another at every turn. We were writing this whole Chapel thing, fuck it, we need to turn and actually write this T'Pring storyline. But it feels like they're fighting that, and I don't know why they're fighting that.
The only reason I can think of is because Spock and T'Pring, if this is still considered regular timeline with original series, Spock and T'Pring have to be separated.
Right.
Because when you get to Kirk era, he has like this whole arc where he goes back to Vulcan and they're supposed to get married still, even though they've been separated for years. So like, but they did write themselves into a corner by making her awesome. Like I have seen Spock Amok Time several times, and I've always been like, what's your problem, T'Pring? And after seeing this season, I'm like, I get it, girl. I know exactly why you did what you did. Screw this guy. I know why you went back to Vulcan. You found yourself a new man, and you were like, you can fight for me if you want. I'll take you if you win. That'd be fine. But
it's weird that simultaneously Spock is an incredible catch that I understand why people are attracted to him. And also I'm like, T'Pring, you can do better because he only sucks in how he's with you or how they're writing him away from you.
Yeah, and it's a tough one because it's like he did so much to be with her for the engagement ceremony, but it was all based on lying to her about how he had become human. So it's this weird balance of like he's putting a lot of work in, but that's not trust. Yeah. So there's a lot happening here. Yeah. But anyway, that's probably my big personal negative of the season. But I actually, in a weird way, I don't want to like. This is one of the only times where I think a negative is I'm also like, I don't want to yuck anyone's yum if you like Chapel and Spock. Go have fun.
I'm a soft yuck of a yum on this one. I'm not going to lie. It upsets me. I'm not into it. I'm not into it, but no,
I'm not
honest,
for it, but
sincerely though, I actually don't want to yuck anyone's down. You do you, and ship who you want to ship, but I don't get it. But yeah, no,
I mean,
I'm
I
just
will
goofing.
say, if you don't like them together like me, and you're watching like the crossover with Lower Decks, where Boimler's like, they're not allowed to be together. I'm like, Boimler gets it.
Boimler gets it.
Boimler's an anti-Chapel Spock.
Yeah, Boimler gets it.
Boimler can't be wrong.
No, Boimler
Not my boy
can't be wrong.
Boimler.
Not Boimler.
Not Boimler.
My other positive negative of the season, it is both, which is more Ortegas. I love Ortegas. She pops every second they're on screen. I'm like, Ortegas.
She's so good. I don't know when it's happening. I read an interview that said she does get in like an Ortegas episode this season, but I haven't tracked one. It better not be the one where she kind of has a storyline about flying the ship in the memory loss episode.
Yeah, episode 4, Among the Lotus Eaters, which was a good episode, actually, I think, for the most part. But I was furious because the episode starts.
Ortegas is narrating.
It's narrator Ortegas, and it is Ortegas excited to wear a hat and go down to the planet.
Great hat.
And a phenomenal hat. It is partially a crime to cover up perfect hair, but that's a phenomenal hat. I'm having fun for you, and I'm chanting Ortegas on my couch because it's an Ortegas episode. And then it's like, you don't get to go. And the episode's like B plot is kind of about her being like, piloting's actually cool, and like I did awesome and saved the day. And I don't need to like covet going on adventures like these other people do because I'm actually important and cool in what I do. And I'm like, awesome, great moral. But we need you on more adventures. You are wildly charismatic, and every second you're not on screen, I'm asking, why aren't you on screen? You fucking rule.
She's awesome. It's so upsetting. It's like, yes, you have every other main cast member has gotten a full dedicated episode at the very least, at least one. And there has never been an episode that I'm like, that's an Ortegas episode. But she's always popping. Her chemistry with everyone is off the charts.
Literally everyone.
You team her up in a scene with literally any character, and she is awesome. Pike. Uhura in this episode, they had a little back and forth with Spock when she's got no memories. They're just boom, having a great time.
Yeah, so more Ortegas.
More Ortegas. But I did also, I think the episode where you lose your memories every day was such a cool concept episode. I was like, ooh, brand new concept just dropped.
Yeah.
Like, we've had a lot of Star Trek, so it's hard to get new concept.
And also just a classic Trek of like a simple moral premise on a self-contained planet. I was like, oh, yum, yum, yum. Give me more of this. A great premise for an episode.
Really great premise for an episode. I think it could have like hit a little harder on what kind of the theme was at, because I think it was like your trauma lives on this planet that you're trying to forget, and then he actually does forget the trauma because like he left this guy behind to die.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really quite coalesce greatly at the end.
Yeah.
But it's still just such a cool episode about like how you discover who you are with no memories, and
even just the premise of we left someone behind and that fucked everything up as well.
And like he lives to live with that.
Ooh, seeing the badge icon like from the satellite image, and it was like, oh, you fucked up.
They weren't dead. You're gonna feel so bad.
Very exciting, very
Or you
good
just
episode.
like contaminated the society, obviously, if they just find your communicators and stuff.
And even also like a really fun puzzle element of like when Pike is like, wait a minute, but like I'm not a worker, my hands aren't calloused, or him putting together these puzzles with no memory and being like, fuck, yeah, like that is such a good...
being like, I know how to treat wounds automatically.
That was such a good classic, like, we are leaders and heroes for a reason. Like that classic, like with nothing, we still rise and lead and help. And I was like, oh yeah, that is awesome. That is absolutely awesome.
Absolutely awesome. And then I think the last like highlight episode of the season is Ad Astra per Aspera, the trial of Una.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, Star Trek knows how to do a trial episode. There's no non-hits in a trial episode. They're always good.
Yeah, it did work really, really well.
Especially for an episode mostly like about the guest character. I'm apologize again. She's so far down the cast list, I won't be able to find her. But the lawyer who like defended Una was incredible.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal performance. The lawyer was the star of that episode and really sold the shit out of a few different things for sure. Yeah, and I think it was like that. Yeah, that courtroom drama just played out incredibly.
Just incredibly, of really like breaking down like Starfleet's morals and what they stand for, and whether Una should be here or not, and whether she asked for amnesty. Technically, it was, oh man, it was like a twist I didn't see coming, and I absolutely adored. I was like, okay, you have figured this out, girl. This is great. Yeah. This is classic Trek.
Another classic Trek.
A really clean moral, not even clean, but like clean, I'm going to say. A clean moral quandary. We're just one thing we're talking about. About like immigrants and
Yeah. I think it was. I think that was a great episode. I thought you were going to say the all Toronto episode. Shout out to Toronto, baby.
Shout out to Toronto, baby. I actually quite liked the all Toronto episode. It is very. Is this how like people in New York and LA feel all the time?
I think they're desensitized to it. So
they don't get the big feeling.
They haven't spent decades of their city pretending to be other cities. The rare moment of Toronto getting to be Toronto. Oh, baby. Yeah.
When they're in Dundas Square and La'an is just like, no, we're in Toronto, Canada. I'm like, you're in Toronto, Canada?
I was like, they said it. Oh!
Yeah, we did the Leo meme where like, they said the name of the place. The glass.
They're at the Root store.
I know that store. I've been in that Root store.
Just losing it with the fake Ontario bridge of the Toronto to US bridge. I loved that Toronto actually got to play itself for once.
Great.
And
you love to see an out of work actor get a gig.
Yeah, absolutely. And Khan is from Toronto now, so
Khan being Canadian, I think, is my favorite change in the Canadian. He's got his jean jacket, he's got a poutine, he's got a double from Timmy's, and he's going to do a genocide.
He's ready to do terrible crimes. Yeah.
Do we want Khan?
I mean,
the U.S. really pawned him off on us in this case.
Yeah, you know what?
You want this war criminal? He's all yours.
They slipped a war
Canada.
criminal up here, but
he's Canadian now.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Complicated.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
Lots of good puns if your name is Khan.
If your name is Khan. But yeah, so some good Toronto and Canada centric stuff there. That was pretty fun.
But even if you're not from Toronto, I think a very good episode.
Yeah.
Just a really like fun time travel mystery, really clean, a really nice like falling in love story that I was like half on board with.
I wasn't on board with it at first, but I think those two actually had pretty good chemistry together.
They did have good chemistry together. Just like for the first half or even more of the episode, it really felt like La'an just loved him because he didn't know who she was.
Right.
And she has dealt with this prejudice all of her life of like her last name is Noonien Singh and what she has to deal with. But I'm like, for a good part of the episode, I'm like, what do you like about him other than the fact that he doesn't have any inherent prejudice towards you? And she was like, just that.
It's a Spock Chapel thing all over again, where it's like, what do you like about her? Human person. What do you like about him? Doesn't have memories of me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but we need a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. But I did by the end. I bought it, and I think they worked it out nicely of like this version of him dying. It explains why when she goes back to regular timeline, she wouldn't like seek him out to fall in love again, because this is a totally different version of him who does know who Noonien Singh is and who has lived a different timeline entirely.
And her just kind of eating that throughout the rest of the season is rough.
It really hurts.
It hurts, but it's a great background story and performance that she's giving. Even just like the one scene she gets in the crossover episode with Boimler.
That's her. Oh, with Boimler.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Don't make attachments.
Yeah, don't make attachments.
She's like, that's a personal one.
And him being like, what? And yeah, like her just delivering a quick little quiet pain. I thought that was really nice. So yeah, a tough thing for the character to bite, but I like the performance she's giving all season, just kind of like carrying that burden with her.
I really like La'an. She's really grown on me. Yeah,
Same.
Just at the end of the Toronto episode, after she calls Kirk like in modern day and talks to him on the phone and then just breaks down crying. Really powerful. Really, really great episode.
Yeah, really good. So yeah, a great performance from her, but also it's just like Kirk, even though this is a very different interpretation of Kirk. He's, this actor's trying to make it his own and obviously not do an impression. Certainly, but it's meant to be.
But no one's ever done an impression of William Shatner.
It's never happened before.
He could be the first one.
He could be the first one, but instead he's made it his own. And I think the only like connective thread is just like being somewhat flirtatious with everybody as well. Like he sells chemistry. Really, I even like the Uhura episode, which I think is like the low tier episode. But when he's like just like visibly bored now, and he's like, "Hey, what's your story? What's your deal? I'm not hitting on you, but I'm like, what is up?" Like, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, people." You end up, I think, accidentally hitting on people because you need constant stimulation is kind of your thing, but that's also charming in its own degree. Like there was a lot of layers to Kirk that kind of unfolded there where I'm like, I understand you.
Yeah. He's bored, but he also genuinely wants to help. So he looks around a bar and he's like, who looks sad and like they need a friend?
Yeah, who has something interesting happening right now.
Yeah,
and I'm going to get in on that.
story.
And I sincerely want to know what interesting thing is happening with you.
Yeah, no, he sells it. He's got good chemistry with everyone. Not in the Ortegas level, but
not quite Ortegas. No one could be Ortegas
no one
level.
can Ortegas.
Yeah, but I liked his chemistry with everyone. But the Uhura episode was the low light of the season.
What a stinker. Poor Uhura. This was a bottom tier every Star Trek episode to me.
She deserves better.
She does deserve better. Like it was an hour long. It acted like there was a mystery, and I was like, have you never seen a Star Trek episode? This episode? Clearly there's something living in the nebula. It doesn't want to get sucked into the thing, and she's getting mental messages. This has happened. I can think of 5 different episodes off the top of my head where this has happened in Star Trek. There's like
that are better written versions of this as well, because this felt like at times a first draft of it where it's like I'm having visions and can't tell the difference between reality and fantasy. And then Pike is like, "Okay, here's a gun and go wander the halls."
Literally, that happened.
And then he says, "I know I probably should put you on house arrest, or lock you in your quarters, but I won't." I'm like, "Oh, we didn't write a reason for that, huh?"
No, the other guy who went through this tried to destroy the entire ship. Even Uhura's already punched Kirk in the face.
Yeah.
Like, she's unstable by not of her own volition. You have to lock her up.
Yeah.
She can hurt herself. She can hurt other people. You're just making these characters act like idiots because you didn't know how to write out of this.
Yes.
You didn't know how to write a reason for her not to be locked in her quarters. So she just isn't.
She just isn't. And it's like, your doctor is allowed to medically order you to bed rest. Like, you can't. And this, it's just really, it was really contrived at every turn to be like, well, why is Uhura wandering the hallway with a gun? She just is. This episode doesn't care. So we just wrote her to be whatever. Storylines that would come and go, like one weird Spock scene that was Spock and I think Chapel scene, but there's no Spock and Chapel storyline. So now we're at like an E storyline for the episode.
It feels like there's a contractual obligation for Spock and Chapel to interact in every single episode.
Yeah, and it was
just like 1 or 2 lines.
A nothing deletable scene that wasn't a story. We have the new engineer come in and talk with Uhura at the beginning. And then
that scene was weird as hell.
And it was weird as hell. And like, it's Uhura being like, "I'm sorry I haven't met you. I don't really want to talk to you. I miss my old engineer." And then the new engineer's storyline ends with other people. It ends with Una. It doesn't end with Uhura.
She never sees Uhura again.
She just kind of fucking wanders off, and they just wrap up those scenes with. It's a real writing mess.
A real writing mess. I mean, Pike would have his captainship taken away at a moment's notice. He blew up the rig for no reason. Even if it is sucking aliens in, there is some kind of manual off switch.
You turn it off, you can drag this away to a different solar system or something.
You got a tractor beam.
A lot of valuable resources are here.
Yeah, you blew it up with no proof aliens existed other than your hallucinating communication officer being like, I'm really pretty sure. Not enough information. I'm sorry.
And after that, for Spock to be, or I think it was Spock saying to Uhura to be like, you made first contact. How does it feel? I'm like, no, she did not. And no history book will acknowledge this.
No.
It is a dream she had once. And then Pike blew up a mining facility.
You guys never even figured out how to detect them in the deuterium?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you can use that rig somewhere else. It's taken months to build.
Yep. It was a nonsense episode.
Absolutely. Please strike it from the record books. Nonsense episode.
And then for that episode to end with the first sitting down of Kirk, Uhura, and Spock.
Yeah, that
And it
felt
was
like also like we need to put this in a different episode.
Yeah, Spock wasn't in this episode. You didn't earn this right now.
No.
And this is a great visual, but you didn't earn this right now.
I mean, even visual is, didn't earn it. I don't really want Spock to meet Kirk for the first time because Kirk's brother's messy. That was the reason Spock came over, because there was still a plate on the table.
Yeah.
And Sam's messy.
It's funny that they've made that a runner.
I love a runner.
I
love
kind
a
of like
runner.
that they've just embedded that into the thing, so that kind of works for me. But I agree that it's a bit of a forced reason for all of them to be sitting down.
I actually, because this one just aired, I don't know what your vibes are. How'd you feel about the most recent Mabenga episode?
I was fine with it. I don't really know that. I don't. Of all the like seasonal arcs, Mbenga came up with a super soldier serum isn't really a hot one. It's one where I'm like, what? This kind of came out of nowhere mid one episode.
It was the first episode of the season.
Him and Chapel mid episode with no explanation just start juicing, and we don't get the backstory yet. And it's like a super soldier juice that makes, I guess Mbenga has like an actual fighting background, but I'm like, Chapel is just Chapel.
She is just like,
she is a trained nurse who then fights like 36 Klingons and wins. And I'm
barehanded.
Like, so this is busted powerful, huh? This super soldier serum you have. But him having a super soldier serum is a bit of a weird turn that needs to be a bigger deal, I think.
It needs to be a bigger deal. They also keep talking about how he's such a badass, but I only ever see him fight in the training room. Like, we didn't actually see him, like, go to battle on the planet. He's like,
I mean, we see kind of like flashes of the fight with those Klingons.
I guess there's flashes, but yeah, it really felt like an episode that wanted to be like DS9 level war story.
It did.
Yeah, that didn't get there. It was like, we can do a DS9 real quick, and I'm like, you gotta earn a DS9.
Yeah,
like that show lives in a war zone.
It was very like the way that they would talk about the Cardassian Wars, and the way they did the Klingon Wars in this. I didn't really piece that together, but that's a really good observation. Great eye.
Thank you very much. Yeah, because it was like the horrors of war flashbacks were really, really good, but I didn't really feel anything in modern day.
Yeah. I kind of like this idea that like he did this and a Klingon has been taking credit for it the whole time. I thought that was kind of cool and powerful. I'm almost disappointed that they killed that Klingon at the end, because I'm like, this being a constant point of contention, I think would be a better ongoing thing for him.
Ooh, if it could come up again.
Yeah. I'm like, this really would have been a great like recurring character that you could dip back to, you know? And I would have liked that.
Yeah, he could be their Gul Dukat. Bajoran worker.
I would. If you're gonna be a DS9 type, you gotta bring in a Gul Dukat.
You gotta have a villain who recurs.
Yes,
and is just a charming piece of shit.
Yeah. So you gotta have that, and it could have been that, but they kind of ditched that. I am very glad that they went with some classic Klingon makeup and not the Discovery style.
Oh, the Discovery style, which is so jarring when they're like previously on Discovery and they show those Klingons, and you're like, we're in the same timeline, but we're back to regular Klingons. I'm glad we're back to
thank God, but
Klingons.
like I almost wish you didn't show me the Discovery Klingons, because that was a waste.
Yeah, that didn't help what was happening. I was like, did the war end and their faces like blew up in a big bomb?
Whatever happened, I'm good with it now.
I'm good with it. I will say though, Mbenga is an incredible actor.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This guy is so intense and emotional and like restrained and doing so much stuff. Holy crap, he's good.
Just quietly when he cleans the buffer out of the one he was trying to save, it was just like, oh man, there were moments on that planet where I get now that you pointed out that it feels very DS9, but I was like, are you trying to be like one of the serious episodes of MASH? It's kind of what it felt like at times, and I was kind of vibing with that.
I mean, the serious episodes of MASH are something
they hit hard. Yeah,
they get you. I also really appreciate that he was like, "Hey, producers, I'm jacked as hell."
Yeah, be like, I'm gonna pop this top multiple times.
Yeah, this is my episode.
Yes.
You better damn believe.
It is funny. It wasn't intentionally funny. But the idea of like the trope of like the broken detective who's like leaned over in a cold shower at the end of a day of a film noir, but a sonic shower where it's just fucking nothing.
It's nothing there.
It's so funny. But I'm like, good on you. Pop that top. You're in phenomenal shape.
He looks incredible.
Show that bod. Have a good time.
But a sonic shower looks like a Barbie shower to me now.
Yeah.
When I see Barbie shower in the movie and nothing's happening.
And like for when there's no visual and for him to be like full Sonic and he gives that command to the shower and I'm like, the fuck is that supposed to mean to me? What does that feel like? I don't know what Sonic feels like, let alone full Sonic.
I don't know. Are you gonna turn into a little blue ball and get a bunch of gold rings? Are you gonna get a little screwdriver like Doctor Who? These are the only Sonics I know.
Only Sonics.
A refreshing milkshake?
But I'm like,
what does it feel like?
I get the vibe that it's meant to be like either really cold or really hot shower, and it's the detective at the end of a film noir or something. But it's just really funny to see a shirtless man go into a room full of nothing and say full Sonic.
And nothing happens. But he closes his eyes and he's like, yeah.
Oh, I feel clean again.
I'm sure this will look great. Do I look torn apart? Full Sonic.
Or whatever it was. Maximum Sonic. Whatever.
Maximum
it might have been
Sonic.
Maximum. But there was something about Sonic.
You gotta
in there.
go full Sonic.
Oh, well, I'm feeling pretty good about Strange New Worlds. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Can't wait to see some more episodes. I'm sad the season's almost over.
Only 2 more episodes. Hey, one of them's a musical, so you'll...
Oh my god, I am actually genuinely upset we're doing this before the musical episode because I would literally I don't even care what happens. I would only talk about the musical for the entire hour.
I understand.
Even despite how good the Lower Decks crossover was. This is going to be
so
Diana's episode about the musical.
I do really like that they're having premise fun as well.
They're having fun.
Which is something that that Star Trek should be doing, you know? Like it's
a concept episode.
Yeah, a concept episode in a way that's like a little bit more modern and playful, where it's like original Trek or TNG at the very minimum will do like concept episodes of like, well, this is a detective story, this is Shakespeare, this is the holodeck thing. So this is a very theatrical, costume-based type of premise. Whereas with like an animation crossover and a musical episode, it feels like a very like modernized, stylized take that I really like how it's keeping the heart of the old, but still keeping it updated and a little bit fresh.
Yeah, I guess when you don't have a holodeck, you really have to come up with different ways to have like a premise episode. You have to be like, we can't just be like the holodeck went crazy again.
Yeah.
We got to come up with new ways to do this. So they're doing it.
Love it.
They're doing it.
Oh, Boimler beaming in or waking up, but just immediately computer and simulation.
Yes, exactly.
Computer and simulation is how every weird episode of Trek should ever begin in a post-holodeck era. Yeah, you got to start out with computer and simulation.
You know what? He's honestly a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
He's nervous as hell.
Yeah, but he's a nerd. He knows, he has thought about what the first logical step is.
He knows the tropes.
Computer and simulation. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed what we discussed, what would you change about this season if you could change anything? Before we do ask the final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, or wherever you might get your podcasts.
Wherever you might get your podcasts, we would love to see your reviews. They help us in our hearts and on the charts. They make us feel nice inside. People see that there are new good reviews. They're like, oh, this podcast is great. I'll check it out. That helps us out. And you can leave a nice 5-star review for any other podcast that you enjoy.
Do
we only want 5 stars, by the way.
Do it for a few of your faves while you're there.
Do it for your faves.
Do it for your faves. And that's a free way to support the podcast. If you do want to support the podcast monetarily, boy, howdy, we like that.
That's great.
Wonderful.
Love that for us. And you.
And you.
It's a win-win. Just listen.
Just
it's gonna
listen.
be a win-win.
Just listen. You can do that over on Patreon. We have a Patreon page at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes where you can subscribe at whatever is in your budget, as little as $1 a month, and then going up from there to whatever you can afford. And each level will give you different bonuses, exclusive bonuses, just for being one of our patrons. The simple $1 level, those add up and help this be our full-time job and make sure that everything keeps running smoothly at the network. And you get our webcomic a day early. At the $3 a month level, you get our podcasts early and ad-free. So you could be listening to this on a Friday rather than a Monday right now.
That's amazing.
That's a pretty good
early.
deal. That's a sweet deal. And you can get that at the $3 level. And then at the
There is no 5.
There is no 5. Well, you can give 5.
You can give it.
You can give 5.
But there's not, we haven't written anything about that.
Give 5, though.
If you give 5, you get what's at 3.
That's still sweet.
I'm just going to tell you that's what happens.
That's still sweet.
That's how it works.
But at $10,
at $10,
you get an exclusive bonus episode of this podcast every single month, and you also get immediate access to the full back catalog. So as soon as you sign up at the $10 hero level, you get all of our previous bonus episodes. I think there's 100 at this point. There's a lot of them in there.
There's a bunch. If you need more talk from superheroes, there's so much waiting for you. You get access to all of it immediately at your $10 level. I believe in July we did Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. For indie stuff. I don't know what we're doing for August. That'll be fun.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We always do.
We'll figure it out. And you can find all of those benefits and everything over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And thank you to all of our current and future patrons.
Thank you so much, patrons.
And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
Personal changes for me. Spock and Chapel aren't together. Love to Pring, even though I know they have to break up eventually. But why now? Pike's not going to die for 8 years at this point or whatever. We got time. Episodes would be shorter. My actual change though is I think there's a couple episodes where the problem is the episode starts and it seems like it's about one character, and then halfway through, it's actually about this character. And that's not satisfying. Particularly, actually, the season opener does this, and it's very jarring. The season opener starts, and it feels like it's going to be a La'an episode because she's been gone and trying to find this girl's parents.
Yes.
So they go to this Klingon world, and La'an's there, and she's been there alone, and she's like, I've found a conspiracy, and I'm part of a gun smuggling ring to find information about it. And halfway through, it becomes a M'Benga and Chapel episode who are juicing and fight 30 Klingons, and La'an does nothing after that.
Spock is the captain and goes rogue or whatever.
And then La'an does nothing after that. And it's not satisfying when you're watching an episode and you're like, okay, it's a La'an episode. Love that. Or it's an ensemble episode. Those are your two options. It's either about one person or it's an ensemble.
Yes.
That's how Star Trek works. But that episode is like, oh no, it's about La'an, and then it's about M'Benga and Chapel. And I'm like, I don't like that. What's the other one that happens? Oh, the Ortegas episode. You can't start as the narrator and then not be in the story.
And then come back at the end and be like, well, I was actually really happy not to be the main character of the story because I like being a pilot. And I'm like,
as a viewer, I wasn't happy about that.
I'm like, I kind of thematically get it, but I want more scenes with you in order to get me there.
Even if I didn't want more scenes with her, that's not how you tell that story.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So I would say multiple times they have just kind of misled of what an episode is actually about, but not in a way that you're like, oh, you got me, in a way that's sloppy.
Yeah.
So those are my changes. Don't start an episode about a character who isn't going to be the main of that episode.
I like that a lot. I fully agree. It feels like what a lot of Trek used to do with you give an actor a week off or whatever, but it would be someone else who would have a one-line wash away to be it would be Una's not here this week because she's visiting an old Starfleet buddy. That's it. Una's not here. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
But instead, they're like, well, we got to get one full scene with Una to talk about why Una's not here. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, you don't actually need to do that. You can just have someone else say it once.
This is why your episodes are too long.
Yeah. You don't need to over-explain everything.
No economy of storytelling on streaming.
I love it. I fully agree with this.
Thank you. Andrew, what would you change?
My biggest change is that I frankly want more to Pring.
Oh yeah, bring her back. Bring her back, mad. I don't even care.
I want this is kind of a bigger picture thing I want as well that kind of ties into T'Pring, and as well the Klingon defector from that previous episode, from the most recent episode, who spoiler warning, I assume we've all seen it at this point, but who dies, the Klingon ambassador. And I'm like, I want a little bit more of TNG in this, of we're on a diplomatic mission and we have an ambassador and we have someone of importance coming on board. And I feel like T'Pring could really play that function to be like, okay, like Spock is the Vulcan poster boy for someone who has joined Starfleet, and I want to be close to him. And T'Pring can be the one to be like, I'm hosting the first meeting with a Klingon ambassador. I'm hosting the first meeting with this planet. I want to see kind of a little bit more of the like political discussions that TNG would do, using diplomatic relations and things on the ship, which would be nice interpersonal conflicts. Whereas I like one-off adventures and like the time travel episodes and stuff, but I'm like, not everything needs to be a big old like fisticuff war epic, which it feels like it's what they're trying to do with all of them. And I'm like, I kind of want some quiet, we're on the ship, more like, how do we deal with relations, intergalactic relations?
How do we do something without like firing a shot?
And I feel like T'Pring could play a big function in that. And also she pops and is way better on camera. So I'm like, I want more T'Pring episodes as a like, you've been assigned the Enterprise as your diplomatic ambassadorial ship or whatever. So that's kind of what I want. It's just a little bit more intergalactic politics teaching us lessons, and having T'Pring be there more to bring that in.
I can get behind that because they're harder stories to tell, but they are very rewarding when they're told well.
Yeah.
So I can get behind that, and I always want more T'Pring.
Yeah.
She's great.
She just pops.
It would even be like awkward at this point. Like it could be like, oh, we assume you'll want the Enterprise because as far as anyone knows, you're still engaged to Spock.
Yes.
I bet it's a secret that they're broken up.
Yeah, I believe that.
Because the engagement is still on, according to several years later, where he has to go marry her. So like publicly, I bet they're still together. So like it would just be like awkward. Like I guess we have to work together right now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So that's where I'm at, but it's a pretty soft change because for the most part, I'm having a lot of fun with all these episodes. Right?
It's just a fun show.
Little adventure by adventure changes is really all I have sometimes. Well, that's going to do it for this week for Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. We're going to be back next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Mutant Madness.
We're talking about those heroes in a half shell.
Mutant Mayhem is what I meant to say. It's not madness.
Oh, they're not mad.
They're not mad.
They're
but there's
causing mayhem.
So we're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem next week on the podcast. Until then, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me online at Ivimey, Ivimey on Instagram and Threads.
You can find me on Tumblr at Words of Diana.
And you can find both of us at FromSuperheroes.com, where you'll find all the podcasts that we work on, produce, and everything we do for the network, webcomic, all kinds of cool stuff. So head over to FromSuperheroes.com and at FromSuperheroes on social media, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.